Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be making another quick material using the same workflow that I showed in the last series. So this is going to be a rubber, like a triangular rubber material that's going to be in a lot of different places around the spaceship. So it's going to be pretty important, but it shouldn't take all that long because it's pretty simple. So call this a 4x4 triangular rubber mat material. That's basically what it is. So I'll start with the base material here and a polygon. And we only want 3 sides. Okay. And I'll have to transform this as well and give it the right orientation. Cool. And maybe center it a little. Also in the base material, we're going to want height, normal, and AO. And I'll just drag the transform output into all 3 of these. So we'll give that a normal node, and we'll give this one an HBAO node. And I always like to set the height depth to 0.01 because 0.1 is a little too strong and overwhelming. Okay, so now in the transform, I'm going to divide it by 2, maybe a couple of times until we get the size that we want. So that's not bad. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Okay, and I want to blend this within add blend mode, and I'll blend it with the same transform but flipped 180 degrees. So how I'll do that is in the one going to the foreground, I'll add another transform in that wire and rotate it 180. So you can see right now they're overlapping. So I'm going to have to give this transform a bit of an offset on the X. And maybe a little bit on the Y too. So something like maybe 0.065 or negative. That's a little too much. Negative 0.063. All right, cool. And then on the Y, negative 0.02. All right, cool. Alright, so that looks pretty good. What I'm going to do now is I want the polygons to have a little bit of a circular edge to it. So I'll just use a normal blur. And you can see here in this preview how it just blurs the edges a little bit. So that's pretty cool. And then just to have a little bit more control, I'll throw in a levels node. Alright, so I think that works. The polygon might actually be a little bit too big, so I'll change the scale to 0.95. Maybe, let me just try 0.9 quick. Okay, yeah, 0.9. Alright, cool. Okay, so I'll call this triangle base. And now what I'm going to do is, since this is like a rubber mat, I'm going to overlay some creases across the top just for a little bit more detail. So I'll blend this. I'll throw that into the background, and then I'm going to grab the creased procedural and throw it in the foreground. So you can see we have some nice creases. And I'll set the blending mode to multiply, so it will only affect what is being bumped out. So you can see all the little creases in there. And I'm going to change the scale maybe to 2, so we have a little bit more frequency in there. And set the opacity to 0.5. Or maybe 0.2. Yeah, okay, cool. So that's literally it for the work we have to do in Designer. So I'll create some output nodes. No hidden connectors. And we can preview the height map, AO, and the normal. And that all looks good. So let me just create a folder for that. And within this, we'll need the HDRP export or whatever engine you're using, and also the Designer export. So I'll click on the wrench icon and export these where we want it to go. Alright, cool. So now open up Substance Painter and your modeling software. So I'm of course using Blender. And I'm just going to make a quick 4x4 plane. With enough subdivisions so that we can use it as another displacement plane. Alright, so 2 million triangles should be enough. And I'm going to quickly displace this using the height map that we just generated. There it is. And I'll have to make sure to set the texture coordinates to UV. And strength, usually I default to 0.1. But it's always important to go into the transform properties and take a look at the dimensions, because even if the strength was only 0.1, sometimes you'll have a weird situation where your z-axis is too much and the model will be too tall and you won't get the proper bake in Painter because it's not close enough to your low poly mesh. So you want to make sure that you're not really exaggerating this displacement too much, because you won't get a good bake. So we want it sort of as low as possible, but with preserving as much detail as we can. So I'll export this. I'll call it 4x4 displacement plan. And now we can do this all in Painter. And this probably won't take too long, and I'll just use a couple smart materials, probably like the rubber smart material. Okay, so we'll grab a normal 4x4 plane. And I'll find rubber. I'll probably just use rubber dry. And that looks pretty good as is, honestly. There's a lot of nice details. A lot of nice color variation. And I'm going to add AO. And I'll create a Designer exports fill layer. And the only thing I'll have there is AO. And I'll just take this AO texture from Substance Designer and drop that right in. And now we'll bake out this mesh in 2K. So everything we've done so far is in 2K. And it shouldn't take too long. So yeah, our displacement plane might have been a little bit too tall, but it's fine. We're still getting a fine bake. And you can see this looks a little staggered, and that's because the AO is rotated the wrong way. So in the rotation transform, I'll just change it to 180. And now we have a good bake. This rubber looks a little dark, so I'm just going to lighten it a little bit. Take the rubber worn and lighten that as well. So this is good at like finding a lot of the edges, and you can see it highlights all these nice creases in the rubber that we got from using the crease procedural. So that's pretty cool. And now I want to throw in some dirt. So I'll find the occlusion strong. Make that a little brown. And really tone down the opacity. But in the game engine, it should be just noticeable. You have to know what type of environment you're building this for. Because I know this is going to be in a spaceship, so it won't make sense that there's a lot of dirt. You know, it should be a pretty clean, sanitary area. So it shouldn't be all too pronounced. Everything has to be pretty subtle. So I'm just going ahead and adding a couple of quick smart masks. Maybe some stains or scratches. You can see a lot of the time I really only want it to affect one channel. So here with these scratches, I didn't want it to change like the height, for instance. So we don't need that channel. But I think it would be cool if we had a little roughness variation. And maybe the last thing I'll use is rust ground. So that's a little strong, so I'll go into the mask editor and turn down the global balance. And sort of make a little bit of a rusty material. So a little metallic, a little less rough, or I could actually just go in and grab rust fine. And I can just copy this mask and paste it in here. Cool. Definitely too strong. So I'm going to tone down the color quite a bit. And yeah, that looks pretty good. I'll change around the mask editor a little bit more. So you can affect if you want to use curvature or world space normals and a lot of other properties. You can see if you want to use your thickness mesh map, stuff like that. So there's a lot of leeway, a lot of stuff to play around with. But I'm pretty happy with this. You can see we definitely want it to affect the roughness. Thing is, I don't want it to affect the height. Color is definitely but besides that, it looks good. Maybe just a little less color. Okay, yeah, so I think I'm pretty happy with this. So go into File, Export. For the high definition render pipeline, and I'll just find where I want it, and yeah, that's it. We'll just export it. So I'm gonna put this in the game later today, and in the next video I'll probably start working on some sci-fi walls and some 3D modeling in Blender, so that's gonna be pretty cool. So yeah, stay tuned guys, look out for those next set of videos. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys all next time.